What's up, everybody? Welcome to Value Town 2016. We've been on a break for a little while, so it's great to be back. I'm ChanManV, and joined today, of course, by Reynad. How's it going, buddy? How you been the last month?
I've been busy, man, but I'm doing good. It's just streaming, holidays,
Yeah.
pretty much the usual, same stuff everyone did. But good to be back.
Yeah, it's been good, man. I've been seeing you stream, quite a bit, and it's been a lot of fun things on your stream recently. So I'm sure we'll be talking about some of that today. And I want to welcome our brand new co-host, Noxious. He's going to be joining us each week. How's it going, buddy?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Just done streaming a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Would have liked to be just hosting directly into it, but we had to set up. We had some audio issues, so now that it's all sorted out, ready to go.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Yeah, so Value Town, I don't know if you guys caught the video that I released yesterday, but just a little few things I just want to explain to you guys. So with Value Town, obviously we're going to have some changes, Noxious being the co-host, and we're going to have just more topical discussions here on Value Town. Still talk about decks, still talk about cards whenever, new expansions come out and things like that, but definitely there's a lot more going on in Hearthstone, so I kind of wanted us to be able to talk about those things on Value Town, so we're going to start doing that today, especially. But why don't we kick things off by talking about what we've been doing, like just in Hearthstone this past week. You've been playing ladder, you've been playing Tavern Brawl, like those type of things. Noxious, why don't you start off? Like, what have you been doing, man?
Sure, man. I actually got like the recent Tavern Brawl we had, not the one today. This is the one for Mechazod, like the co-op brawl, which I think is actually pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
But before that, the one where you had to choose between one of 4 buffs, whether it was like Death Rattle, Battle Cry, Armor, or Murloc. I think I played a ton of that, like way more than I thought I would. And like this week I've been playing combo decks a lot, like the Frost Giant OTK, the Jungle Moonkin Malagos, the Confused Priest. Just like I finally actually got out
Holy
of
crap.
not playing at crappy ranks just because I wanted to play combo decks higher. It was fun. It's been fun.
Which one's the Frost Giant OTK deck? I don't even remember.
Oh, it's really
that.
simple. It's got like when Frost Giant was announced, people started thinking about playing the deck, and it got like you just play it with warrior. You start armoring up every turn forever, and then eventually you charge it up and you copy it twice with Faceless, and you just kill them.
Yeah,
it's like the Molten Giant OTK, but like new twist on it, I guess, with the one class that can live forever. So
okay,
yeah,
that sounds fun. I definitely never taken a look at that one. Reynad, how about you? What have you been doing? Laddering?
Yeah, pretty much just ladder. The only Hearthstone I've been playing has been on stream, which isn't always the case. Sometimes I'm like really into the meta. Past couple weeks, it's not been the case. But yeah, I've just been laddering a little bit. I haven't played too much this month, honestly. I got really burnt out at the end of last month because they, like on New Year's, they made the season end, and they made it's a 31-day month, and the first 30 days of ladder didn't actually matter. It was insane. Like on December 30th, I fell asleep at rank 7. 7 legend. And then I woke up and I was ranked 50. And I talked to the people on Europe right when their season ended. It was 9 hours earlier, in California before our season ended. And they were saying that on Europe, they were dropping 1 rank per minute for the people in top 100.
That's fast. Holy shit.
Yeah. So basically, I spent 6 hours grinding that day and just missed it. I was just really tilted because you have to get a 4-win streak right at the end. I had it. I was at there's this glut of people that wouldn't play between rank 30 legend and 70 legend.
Yeah.
So as soon as you won a game at 70 legend, you jumped up to 30. And I was scared that if I don't play for 10 minutes, I would jump down to 70 from people passing.
Right.
I don't know.
Talk about ladder anxiety, man. That's craziness whether to play or not.
But I ended up playing at 30 because if I win, then I not only do I guarantee top 100, but I guarantee top 50. And I lost that game, so that sucked.
What do you think about this whole? I mean, how do you feel about just this kind of last day meta?
I was gonna ask you that.
Awful. A Hearthstone ladder system is just trash. It's straight up the worst possible ladder system they could have for a card game, and that's I mean, even Magic used to use ELO, which basically like calculated the same way that MMR is calculated in Hearthstone, and they stopped using it because it's just too volatile for a card game. The person that was highest ranked in Magic was always the one that won the last tournament last weekend.
Oh, I see.
Every time.
Right. That makes sense, right?
Yeah. So that was kind of it's just not like indicative of skill in a card game, but if they don't have that kind of system, then it's like, how do you grind?
Yeah. I mean, it's
later stages.
It's kind of exciting, like on that last day, but I can just see it being super frustrating for a large amount of people too, especially the folks that are probably in like the top 200, 300, right? I feel like that experience is crazy. But a lot of people are probably the same as you. It's just like, do I play just to defend my position, or do I try to just climb? And oh man, it is. It's just like you said. It's just like it's a little bit of who's lucky at the very, very end, right?
What if they did like weekly qualifying tournaments in game, like with an actual lobby that worked a little bit like they do the BlizzCon stuff, and you had to actually win those things to get points towards the the BlizzCon stuff? Because I don't really see why like the ladder points are being accounted for when it comes to the tournament system that's going to be run in a very different manner with like formats that are probably not the same. They're best of threes in the first place at least. Whereas now it's like a best of one, you queue into it, you hope you get a good matchup. It's even worse now since the metagame's all over the place, I imagine. So
yeah, but how do you run that tournament? I mean, it's
automatically, I guess, every week. You just like register and see where things go.
Oh, I see what you mean.
You're seated randomly.
Okay.
Yeah, like just an in-game tournament lobby or system that just takes care of seating people.
People don't realize how long it would take to program.
Yeah.
Like an in-game tournament lobby is like there's nothing even close to it that's already in Hearthstone as far as like the back end for it. So they, yeah, I think that would be awesome, but it's always going to be like a lower priority than the new expansion or other features that they're always working on.
Yeah.
Like deck slots seem like they should be quick to program, and they're not out yet. But like imagine how hard the tournament system is to program, because they have to test so many different UIs for it, and it's at the end of the day like Blizzard's supportive of a Hearthstone esports scene, but I don't think they want a competitive version of the game within the client.
Really?
Because it's not.
Yeah, I can see that. Really absolutely.
So you don't think there will ever be a tournament system?
I don't think so. I don't think there should be.
Wow.
I think there's so many third-party websites you can use for stuff like that, and having it in the client, yeah, it's nice and all, but it's like trying to push Hearthstone to be what it isn't, and like what it isn't is, like a
game competitive game.
What it isn't is hardcore, is what you're saying.
I guess it's not like Warcraft 3 or Starcraft 2, which they're built to be competitive or played competitively. Whereas I guess Hearthstone is more played to be casual, and if you push the client into incorporating those competitive elements, then you're kind of supporting it.
Well, I think I definitely agree that from a prioritization standpoint, it shouldn't be high, just based on what you guys have said. But if they have bandwidth, I don't see why you wouldn't why not just build it in, right? Like, I don't think it would hurt if they, if they didn't have anything else to do. I mean, they always have stuff to do, but if they have enough engineers, then I don't know. I think there's enough people that would want to play a tournament system, and then whatever esports we do have for Hearthstone, just with the whole circuit and everything, then you could incorporate that somehow, like with what Noxious was suggesting.
And with MLG, I mean, if they build a platform, there's a possibility that they just have it's not going to be in the client, but it could be an external platform that kind of pushes you to play tournaments, or they're going to have scheduled tournaments run on that platform instead.
Yeah. Well, yeah, MLG is definitely a topic we're going to be talking about soon. Yeah, but sure. That's kind of what Reynad was saying with an external sites and things like that, right. Running it. But yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe even just extending the points to a larger number of people in Legend. Like, what about if it went out to 300 or, I don't know, 200, 300, 400 or something like that? Would it be any better or still the same?
It doesn't matter.
Craziness?
Those points are too small to really make a difference when it comes to the big event, I think. In fact, I mean, I'm not even there. I don't even care too much on a personal level, but I feel like all you're doing is diluting the pool of players who go there.
Yeah.
To where you have a lot of the top ones that might not make the cut because variance hits. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, it's either 0 or no. I mean, you get nothing now, so it's like either nothing or I don't know, just a few points anyway.
Now.
Yeah, just 1 point for getting it. That's true. 1 point.
And you get 5 for top 100. I think.
Yeah.
Like the last time that ladder mattered for Hearthstone, it was a lot more top heavy. Like there's a huge difference between getting top 10 and top 50 and top 100. And I noticed that this last season, the first time that they had top 100 be like the contention point, how do I put it? Like there were a lot more people grinding at around that rank 100, 150 rank. Basically, like how do I put this? If they changed it to the top 300 got points, all that would happen is there would be 200 people sitting on ranking not playing.
Right.
And instead of like the current 50 people do that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't change anything because it's like the same amount of people competing at the end of on that last day. It's still the same amount of variance.
There's more squatting basically at the end.
Yeah, the squatting is always just gonna be influenced by like what that cutoff is.
Yeah.
Honestly, what they just need is a better ranking system, one that doesn't go off of MMR the way it currently does. And I don't know if there's a different way of doing it. It sucks to like shit talk the ranking system, but then like I don't really have a better solution.
Like we don't have a better idea, so that's always not as productive, right?
It's been the nightmare, I think, of pretty much every single game that's tried to be competitive is finding the format that works. And even though Hearthstone's been experimenting with like the ladder system is the one that's tougher to evaluate, right? Because you see, look at StarCraft. World of Warcraft's pretty exploitable, which might be just a big issue.
Yep.
Because of the way it works, the highest skill players can just manipulate their queue very easily since there's so few of them at that level. Whereas in Hearthstone, I feel like the variance itself accommodates or like fixes that issue. But the problem is when you're like giving points out for being at the top, then of course some people miss out even though they don't quote unquote deserve to. So it's just rough.
Why is it bad though? Like if you're a high ranked player, that like in WoW, if you're a high ranked player, you're gonna get paired against like the highest ranked player, and both of you queue at the same time, right?
Yeah, all the time, pretty much.
Yeah, so that's how Hearthstone should work.
That's what I liked about it. Yeah, I'd like that.
Right now, the hidden thing in Hearthstone is I was actually gonna make a video on this. The worst thing about Hearthstone ladder is the fact that there's actually like variance in your matchmaking, other than the matchup you get or the opponent you get. There's variance in the rank they can be because like if you're top 100 legend, you have the same odds of playing like a rank 3000 legend at the end of the month as you do of playing a guy near your own rank. And then like before the game even starts, before you even see your matchup, there's RNG based on your opponent's rank, where if they are like rank 3000, you lose like 4 times as much MMR for losing, and you win 4 times less MMR for winning. So like already you lost the RNG roll of like how much MMR do I win or lose?
Just the reward or punishment is already rolled for like before you even start, and that can, because there's variance in the game. Like in WoW, when it happens, I'll be honest with you, like if you're 2700, you face off against 2300, it happens. You get 1 point, but you never lose. Like you never lose legitimately. In Hearthstone, I feel like the variance in the game makes it so when you do face off against lower ranked opponents, the punishment, like you can't even avoid it. It'll happen at least at some point. And that's, I think, the big issue, is that there's too many layers of variance on the points you get and the reward you get on top of it. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think the best solution right now would just be to basically make it impossible to queue into rank 3000 players if you're top 100 and just give us way longer queue times. If the game has enough players to support it, you should only be able to play against people within 1% of your MMR range, if possible. The reason, like, I think back in beta, you never saw top 100 players get paired against rank 3000 players. It just didn't happen. But then all that match fixing stuff kind of got revealed, where like a bunch of players got banned for it.
Yeah.
And Blizzard got like really worried. And I think what they did is they increased the range that you can match into in Legend to make it harder to intentionally queue two accounts into each other.
Oh, you think that's the reason? I just figured it was wait time. I figured wait time was the biggest thing.
That's true.
I mean, the people who play the game at that level would rather have good games and close, like, not as volatile MMR swings and just a longer queue time. You know, the people who grind Hearthstone that much are not the ones that care about an extra 2 minutes of waiting, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think, especially, everybody has the same goal, like near the top there. So wait time, I don't think is as much of an issue. But I just feel like the change was probably generally for wait time, and they just applied it to every aspect of ladder.
Yeah, maybe.
General UI issue there. Yeah.
I mean, every other rank has so many players. Like, Hearthstone has so many players. Wait time should be pretty short regardless, I think.
Yeah. All right, yeah, that's definitely cool. Yeah, I've been laddering too. I've been trying to get to Legend with Priest because I've never done it. It's like just playing Priest. It's been tough, dude. I've gotten up to rank 2, but then I'll just like drop to rank 5 like the next day, depending on what I play. So
shields up, red alert.
Yeah, exactly right. But what do you guys think of the meta right now? I mean, I'm seeing all kinds of things. It's hard to actually pinpoint what I should be trying to counter right now.
There's a lot of stuff, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot more zoo than there was last month. A bunch of zoo showed up on the very last ladder day last month, and they all did pretty well. But yeah, like the metagame is in a spot where there's a lot of decks, but they're all decks we've seen before, I guess. I don't know. Personally, I just can't find one that I really like right now. You know, I know Secret Paladin's the best, but I just played it all last month, so I'm bored of it.
Yeah, I can't bring myself to play Secret Paladin at all. But it's not quite as popular as it was. I mean, I see all kind. I mean, I do see Secret Paladin probably the most, but I mean, I see a lot of zoo. I mean, I still see the Reno locks. There will be like days where I see a ton of warriors, and just those type of countering type of decks, and then druids have their days too. So it's like, man, you really have to grind these days. Play a lot of matches.
There's no like narrow like 3-deck meta anymore. I mean, you could say yes, there's a huge representation of Secret Paladin on a given day, but the thing is, I feel like back to the problem that's always been there with Hearthstone is you change decks, then suddenly if you don't run into what you were trying to queue up into, then you're pretty much not doing any work with that swap. So it's really just about taking one archetype that would work against what you think you're going to be facing off against and queuing until you get one good day where suddenly the streaking happens. Even at High Legend, like to push into the top 10, you do have to streak.
Yeah.
From what I gather. Like I don't like it's always about streaking, and that's a pretty tough thing to do in a game where matchups aren't even guaranteed. So I don't know. I don't know like if it's time ever. I don't think they will ever do that.
You know what
class ban on ladder or something.
You know what we need is we need essentially like an equivalent to I'm not exactly the same as Hearth Arena, but we need an equivalent to something analytics wise for constructed, like something that will just tell us like, okay, right now what is the hottest deck right now.
Oh my god.
I mean, obviously it would change, because people would obviously instantly try to counter whatever that site's saying. But that would actually be nice, because every day, the way my ladder experience goes is I drop, because I don't know what's going, currently, hot on the ladder right now. And then it's like, by the time I kind of figure it out, then I have to, I climb back at the end of the day. But every day I feel like I drop initially, because I need to figure out, like, get a sample size of what's going on, at least a small sample size.
Sure. That's the issue. It does take a long time to get things done. Like sample size wise, it's really rough. Like, you can't get a good sample size individually, like, unless you keep queuing on a dummy account and keep conceding every game just to see the classes.
Well, you're not going to concede.
Like, there's absolutely no way you're going to see a good sample size. So.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's definitely interesting. I'll see if I'll be able to do it. I've still got, about 3 weeks to do it. We'll see. Yeah. But Tavern Brawl was another thing that I thought was really interesting. You mentioned it too, Noxious. Reynad, did you get a chance to play Tavern Brawl at all?
I did. I played a few games on stream of the one where you pick one of 4 buffs.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I think I decided Mill Rogue's the best possible decks. I stopped.
Oh
playing.
wow. Okay, Milrogue. So actually, that's what I wanted to see. What do you guys think was the best? So for those of you that didn't get a chance to play Tavern Brawl, it was called Battle of the Builds, and the way it would work is that you would build your own deck, and then just before your first turn, one of these buffs happen. Like you get to choose one of these buffs for the entire game that you get. So you could either choose the Murloc bonus, where you get a 1/1 Murloc, or +1/1 to Battlecry cards, +1/1 to Death Rattle cards, and then +3 armor for whenever you cast a spell. So you just choose one, right? And then you just play your entire game, and you get that buff. So wanted to ask you guys which one you thought was the best. First off, Noxious.
Yeah, I mean, I think Milrogue is probably like it was my initial evaluation that it would be the best, but in order to make it the best, I had to put in 2 Hungry Crabs, just because I was so, like, there was one day where I saw nothing but Murlocs. The other day was just armored up Freeze Mages and Control Warriors, which you beat with Milrogue. So it was just kind of weird because Milrogue looked like the absolute best deck, and then you had to start putting in Hungry Crabs to do better work. And then if people were playing the Battlecry / Death Rattle stuff, you were better off playing, Aggro Warrior with Battlecry bonuses, where you're playing like Arcane Golems and Leroy's. Like there's a few decks that were really good, but overall it comes down to Milrogue, I think. And I'd say Priest initially was the best, but then Rogue came up, and that's not going to work. I don't know. I feel like Rogue has the best win rate.
You thought Priest was the best? Wow.
For a little while, I thought it was pretty much impossible to beat with the armor game, because you could usually just get out obscene amounts of cards in your deck against Mill, so you could still manage it. So
okay.
Cool.
Ray,
were there other people playing Milrogue? Was it really popular towards the end? Because I only played.
I don't know. It was just me. Like I saw like myself and maybe one other guy.
Yeah, I only played the Brawl like right at the beginning, so I didn't know if there's like some metagame that developed. But yeah, I started with just put all the Murloc cards in a deck and go on like a few games with that, and then I tried Control Warrior because I'm like, oh, Control Warrior should be impossible to kill if you make it spell heavy, like 2 Slam, 2 Bash, 2 Revenge, all of that, and I did that. And yeah, Rogue, or Warrior was beating everything, but then in my head I'm like, okay, well, Control Warrior is unbeatable by combo and by aggro, but Milrogue just crushes it. So like Milrogue, I think, would be on top because it like beats all these control decks, and it also beats like I think you can get it to beat all the aggro decks too. So
yeah, it's only Shaman that's a really big problem. Like, because they always get that every fin can happen turn. I think they always will get it. Like, you might dodge the first any fin with a Vanish or Prep Fan of Knives or something ridiculous. You might stay alive, but then eventually they just keep getting those 1/1s to where they will get either 2 Bloodlusts or 2 any fins, and eventually one turn will go through or you'll lose half your HP, and then you're looking at it like, oh, I can't make them draw because Crackle comes up, and it's like aggro Shaman with Murlocs basically just wrecks that format. So I think overall, like, it was actually a really cool format to where I could imagine there was a ladder system with a metagame that evolves in that that Tavern Brawl, which would definitely happen over the few days we had it. It was cool.
Yeah. So I guess consensus is spell bonus was the best for you guys.
It looked like it initially, but I think Battlecry Warrior was my favorite.
Yeah, I definitely messed around with both spell bonus and the Death Rattle ones too, and spell bonus I feel like had the most flexibility, and I was really surprised that freeze didn't work. Did you guys try freeze mage too?
No,
I did kind of.
Decided it would die like control. Like it would die to Control Warrior, and it would die to the other spell decks because they're getting armor. So
yeah, just not enough damage, right? Yeah, that's the same issue I had. Yeah, but that was definitely very inventive of the devs to come up with. Hopefully, we'll see some more of these type of Tavern Brawls. One of the best, if not the best one for me.
I'd say the best, yeah, for sure. For me, at least. Like the thing is, the design of it was really cool. There was one a while back we had that was where you could discover cards. And that was super awesome, like conceptually, but in practice, it seems like there's still a lot of RNG in the way that it works. Whereas now you know what you're getting. The only thing I guess I could complain about this Tavern Brawl was I wish I could select the bonus I want in the deck area, because I can't even tell you how many times I clicked end turn as I was trying to like just speed up the turn 1, and I forgot to pick the bonus. I don't know how many times it happened. It's just obscene.
Oh, I see. UI wise. Okay, I understand.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. Annoying.
Got it. All right. Well, Tavern Brawl, we'll see what it is today, because I think it comes out. It probably has come out already. It's just I haven't got a chance to look in the client for what's going on there. But let's move on to a topic in the news. It happened maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. But Blizzard Activision buys Major League of Gaming, and folks are probably wondering why this is such a. Folks that don't really follow, I guess, esports might be wondering why this is such a big deal. But it is a big deal because Major League Gaming has always been a tournament circuit, an online tournament platform. They even have their own streaming platform now with MLG TV. And the fact that Activision is obviously, and Blizzard buying this, what does that mean for, I guess, all the Activision and Blizzard titles? Since they've all been on Twitch, they've all been run by companies like ESL, just for the most part, Hearthstone particularly, ESL America. We all know ESL America and the studio over there, and they've obviously do European ones too. So the question is for you guys: what do you think of this whole purchase, and what do you think What do you think is the future for Hearthstone esports with this? Ray, I'll start with you.
There's basically 3 esports production companies, which are ESL, DreamHack, and MLG. And the first 2 got bought out by MTGX, and both get bought by MTG.
Yeah, both of them are owned by MTGX.
So Blizzard has been, or Activision Blizzard rather, has been on a kick of like investing heavily into esports, buying things in the space. They bought King, like that makes Candy Crush and stuff. So I think it's just like that time.
Oh yeah, we know where they're going with that.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I think it's just that time when they're starting to eat up other companies, and basically, okay. So MLG was really what made it successful for a long time is their sales team. They actually had the best one in the industry. Through that sales team, they got exclusive contracts with Activision to do Call of Duty tournaments. And Call of Duty, because it had to be streamed on MLG all the time, it was just really like unsuccessful. Like that scene just got way less viewers than it would have on Twitch, and the individual Call of Duty streamers couldn't they all made all their content on YouTube basically. They didn't really do much on the MLG platform. So, for example, like Optic is probably like the 3rd biggest esports brand in the world, and that's something a lot of people who just watch Twitch haven't even heard of because they're just based in Call of Duty. So it's crazy that a game that big, with brands that big, when you have guys like Nadeshot with like 1 million Twitter followers, when they just like don't get any views because they're streaming on MLG, it's just like really, it sucks. So now that it's going to be on Twitch as well, it'll be like better for Call of Duty, and for Hearthstone, not much is going to change because the MLG buyout, basically what happened is like MLG started tanking in value, and then like after it lost Call of Duty exclusivity, that was like the last straw, and they had to kind of sell. Because that company was probably worth twice that a year ago.
Well, the total funding was $69 million actually for MLG over the history of MLG. So even just what funding they've gotten, it's like quite a bit less.
They've been profitable too, so you can't really.
They've been profitable? Not for very long, dude. Like I think the first time they were not red was maybe 2 years ago. They've been losing money forever, and not to mention Ferguson Mitchell has a great article I should bring up that literally lays out all the loans they've taken from banks too. It's quite a bit, so they've definitely lost money, like quite a bit of money over time. But they do have assets, and that's kind of what the $46 million is for, right?
Right. So the buyout's just for equipment mostly, and that's just gonna go towards all Blizzard esports, honestly. For doing a lot of bigger scale stuff. Now they just have the assets that they need to do it, basically. The cameras, all of that. So long term, this isn't really gonna affect anything directly in Hearthstone. It's just gonna indirectly affect all of Blizzard esports because there's a lot of it's just gonna make like the back end.
It's Candy Crush, man. Candy Crush.
You can't Candy Crush esports. I mean, I think the brand of MLG as well. Like when you think about esports online, I mean, when's the last time you saw somebody say that was a crazy ESL move you made right there, or you make like MLG has gotten this crazy reputation because of the Call of Duty stuff that they've done, where when you make a cool move, I guess people just relate that to MLG because it's the competitive esports thing. So the name itself has some value in a weird way, but for some reason MLG has always been going down. Like popularity wise, because I remember back in the days they ran StarCraft tournaments a long time ago.
Yeah, that was like the prime of StarCraft.
Exactly, like their peak was when they had StarCraft stuff, and then ever since they picked up console and they've been focusing a lot on that, obviously, which I can understand from a business standpoint. It just seems like they've been losing the PC gamers to that. And as a result of that, the crowd of people who would watch a stream on PC, they're just not there. They don't care about the console games very often. Not necessarily true, because you have stuff like Bloodborne on Twitch that's getting pretty decent viewership, or Destiny even. But it's like they've isolated themselves in a little bubble where they can't even touch a market because they left it behind a while back. And maybe just having the brand for Blizzard is going to be worth a lot. I don't know.
Well, I mean, let's be so. Just talking about some of those points. So MLG, when it was popular with StarCraft 2, that original circuit back in like 2011, 10 and 11, they were losing money. Like these type of events that you do, like in Columbus and Raleigh and Anaheim and things. I mean, it was very. I think it was very public that they lost money on every one of those events. So being known for that is cool, but when you're not making money from that, it's really, really hard to do, right? And so they started getting away from that about 2 or 3 years ago, and and slowly, StarCraft 2 started to phase out, right? And then with Riot, really taking control of League, they were never able to have League, like a really substantial League events. And ESL being the European studio, like that kind of allowed ESL to continue doing League things. They're like the only company that's able to do something besides Riot, right? So they had to find their own niche, and that's kind of where they went to console. And most recently they went to Smash too, right? A lot of the Smash events were MLG, and that's where they were focusing. But like Reynad mentioned, losing the Call of Duty contract to ESL, I think that was like the last straw that broke kind of MLG's back. And so I think after that they just felt like they had to sell, and it was actually unclear whether it was just like a full buyout or if it was just selling assets. But a recent article, I think from Ferguson Mitchell, spelled it out really clearly. It was just they literally sold every single asset except for Agora, which was a company that they acquired that does online tools and things like that. So the brand is sold. Like they had to rename the company too that's remaining, but there's still an entity that remains. But they sold everything: the brand, the MLG circuit, the MLG game battles, which is the online platform and everything. So Activision owns all of that now, which could mean that we have some Hearthstone stuff, right? In terms of online,
they might use it, as just kind of a back end, infrastructure. I mean, as he said, as Reynad said, it's like, yeah, sure, they've got the assets and they're probably very happy with it. But they might not be intending to push Hearthstone to esports. I just feel like like the fact that they bought it out in the first place means that they're still continuing on with the vision that esports is going to grow, which is true. Like I was talking to an ESPN guy recently for an interview, and he says, cable's dying. We're all aware of that, and we're trying to focus some of our efforts maybe on getting involved in the online scene. Yeah. So it's pretty cool to hear that, and I think Activision's move was pretty much in line with what all the big media companies are noticing.
I hope, one of the things that I loved about MLG, so the thing about MLG for me is like it's some of my best memories, of StarCraft 2 esports were all revolved around MLG back in, 2010 and 11. And one of the things I loved the most were the open tournaments. Like I actually got a chance to play, in a StarCraft 2 open tournament. And this isn't a tournament where all the pros are involved too. You know what I mean? Like all the Korean players were there too, and all your favorite players. I hope MLG does something. It would be cool if they did something like that with Hearthstone. Like just have, like these kind of touring events that are just open to everybody, and they like it's an all day, 2-day event, but it's super high profile type of open thing versus just an online type of experience. I think that would be kind of cool.
It reminds me of like WCG. Didn't they have like an open qualifier that you could just go through to get to the group stage in the first place. Like there was some kind of thing. I remember WCG a while
Did
back.
they do that? Okay.
Might have been like another one like ESWC.
Well, WCG's like had a history of always being like country open
country
type
only.
of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So
Yeah,
that was
that's
pretty
true.
cool. I don't know. I'd like that. It would be nice to see the entire scene grow. I'm just happy that esports is just becoming even bigger and more widely accepted. Like suddenly it seems like I remember when poker became big on TV. Somehow that is also.
You think Hearthstone's gonna be on TV?
No, hell no.
I
Oh no,
don't think
never mind.
that's gonna
I'm not talking
happen,
about
dude.
Hearthstone specifically, just
Yeah.
in general, the esports stuff. Just the fact that the game, which went from being kind of a gambler's awful addiction, went to being from that to being kind of a cool mainstream thing. That was pretty nice.
Yeah. Ray, you think Hearthstone will ever get to at least poker? Poker entertainment from the standpoint of TV,
God.
you know, like.
Like it's unlikely. Poker is a lot more accessible. A lot of also appeals to a broader variety of demographics. You know, a lot of the people who care about professional poker are like men in their early 20s, late 20s, but you also see people in their 40s, 50s, 60s like really caring about that scene. Whereas it's a lot less common for gaming to have like as big of a spread in ages. But yeah, no, I don't know. This MLG buyout, it's like a little bit scary too, because you talk to a lot of people who are involved in the scene, whether they're like players or event staff or anything like that, and a lot of people's fondest memories were MLG from a lot of different scenes. And you know, they did a lot of good things for the space. Just really high production level stuff, and you know, they treated players well and everything. It's just, I don't know, it sucks to see companies like this get, you know, gobbled up as things grow. Like these are the companies that got esports to the point where it is now, and then it's just
Yeah, everything's consolidating now, just because I think a lot of big players are coming into the space. So the existing players, they kind of have to come together, or like companies like MTGX comes and buys, you know, two of the biggest companies we do have in esports. That's pretty much what we're seeing here. It's going to be a new time, man. 2016, we're going to see a lot of this, and it'll be interesting to see what everything looks like by the end of the year.
Yeah, I want to know if Blizzard's going to pull off the kind of like LCS type of policy for some of their tournaments. I don't know if that's going to happen ever.
Like
just
what?
taking
What do you
control of the competitive, I guess, tours, you could say. LCS being kind of the big thing for League.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
so do you
Blizzard
mean
is
just
ever gonna
taking
do that
control?
one of their, yeah,
You mean take control of
kind
everything?
the
Oh, okay.
competitive stuff. I don't know. I don't know if they'd ever do that. It really depends, you know, what the motive was behind MLG. We'll figure that out, of course, as we go along. Like, it's kind of early to talk about the ramifications, but I'd like to know if that's the plan they've got to maybe take the reins of the competitive environment. Because right now, I feel like it's the Wild West in esports. It's always been, but it still kind of is. Maybe we need like an NFL for esports.
Well, I mean, I don't think we'll ever have an NFL for the esports, just because it's different, right? Like, you have these developers that own the IP, and you know, they have the last say when it comes to it. And that's why Riot type of model makes the most sense, because you know, they are the end all say all, and for them to run it makes the most sense too, right? With Blizzard, I don't see any signs of it, but yeah, this whole Activision thing, like obviously making huge investments, and then you know, you see this whole new esports division being created. It does seem like there are signs that it might be headed towards that direction, which I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. We'll have to, at least from a consumer, you know, from the standpoint of like broadcasting companies and things like that, it might be worse for them, but we'll definitely have to see. Twitch being just the general platform, I think still helps a lot of these companies, right? Like MLG TV will not be successful, like it just as itself. Like, can you imagine if they made all Blizzard titles and Activision titles just on MLG TV? That would be so terrible. That'd be crazy bad.
Reynad's like, please
don't.
Don't give any. Come on. I mean, that we all know how bad this. It's just like going to a Zubu or something. You know what I mean? That'd be so bad, right? I mean, but yeah. So we'll have to see. Yeah, definitely see how that goes. But let's move on to another topic. So before we get to the next topic, I just want to remind everybody we have a Patreon for Valuetown, patreon.com/, Value Town. If you want to support the show, pledge, and lots of cool rewards and milestones there. Really appreciate it. It keeps the show going. But let's move on to another topic that has to do with companies that aren't directly related to Hearthstone, but I feel like should be, which are the e-betting. It's like gambling / fantasy sites, all right? Gambling / sorry, let me just get this on here. Sites.
Yeah.
Okay, and these type of sites that we're talking about are things like Vulcan, things like Alpha Draft, and we've seen Alpha Draft sponsor ATL, for instance, and we've all kind of wondered, like, how did that work since that Hearthstone's not even on their site, so what's going on there? And first off, I want to see what you guys think of just these sites generally, and the fact that they, in my opinion, are helping to sustain the growth and the consistency of CSGO, it being such an important part to that scene. What do you guys think about that, and would it be awesome to have that in Hearthstone? Noxious, I'll start with you.
So the first thing is, like, fantasy for Hearthstone would be a little bit weird. Like, picking up, like, I remember when I casted Vulcan, they asked us to do little demonstration videos of, like, how to use the website.
Right.
And I was like, okay, sure, I'll do that. And then I just going through the motions, I was like, this is ridiculous, because, like, just rating players based on their performance in this game is a lot more difficult, I find, than other games. And when you're choosing lineups and matchups, like, it comes down to what you think the players are going to prefer playing at a given time. But when the metagame's usually settled in tournaments, it often doesn't matter too much. Like, the fantasy side I found a little odd. But when you look at the betting websites, when you bet on somebody winning a game, or, you're betting on yourself, like in a 1v1 match, you're going like, dude, I'm going to, like, 1v1 you, GG no re. We're putting $50 in this match. And you just take a chance. Maybe your secret paladin takes the win, maybe it doesn't. And you can just try to keep queuing up against people who are consenting to betting some money on it. So there's like two different ways to do this. And there's also the whole, never mind the fantasy, just bet on a player winning a given event. We've seen that happen in the past, but it sometimes leads to a lot of, I guess, match setting, where players are being paid to throw, which, although you wouldn't necessarily put it past, on a player to do something like this. If the incentive is big enough, it could happen. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, like, Blizzard has had a problem with Vulcan, which kind of threw every single one of these ideas out the window by default, right? So,
yeah.
I don't know. A little bit of a fallout with them.
Reynad, what do you think?
Okay, so yeah, it does help CSGO a lot, the gambling sites specifically. Mm-hmm. The daily fantasy doesn't, I wouldn't say the daily fantasy contributes to, like, increasing numbers in a game, though. Daily fantasy is just something that's carved out a huge niche in traditional sports. It's one of the biggest sources of revenue they sponsor. Yeah,
especially recently with just daily fantasy, I think has been the innovation, like, and making a lot of money.
So you see it in the news a lot lately. John Oliver's done, or probably the first piece I've ever seen him do that made me lose respect for him on daily fantasy.
Really? What was it about? I didn't even see it.
He basically is just like, oh, look at how scum these guys are for making money by making business.
Okay.
And then, but he's like, oh, look at how much these guys contradict themselves in their message, and he, like, is contradicting himself a lot too while he's doing this, and it's like, I don't know, it's just like a headache. There's just, like, so many logical fallacies.
Wow. Okay.
There was no message behind it either. Like, at the end of the episode, I'm just like, okay, so I watched you, like, explain the most common business practices in the world and try to paint them as bad, and then you have no message. Like, there's no thesis, At the end of it, it's like, yep, so this is what's happening.
My sides.
It wasn't. I don't know. Normally, I really like the stuff he does, but that was just like,
just for the sake of being argumentative for no reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly
okay.
What it
Got it.
It's like, look at how edgy I am for noticing things. But yeah, anyway, yeah, the daily fantasy's blown up, and there's definitely, like, esports equivalent to that. And it traditionally, like, those are sources of a lot of sponsorship revenue. So like, money from sites like Alpha Draft and Vulcan could potentially go to doing a lot of just throwing a lot of big third-party events and just putting more cool stuff to watch on Twitch. the same way that money from companies like G2A and like other sponsors helps put events on. So what happened though is like Vulcan, and again, I I might have a detail wrong, but the general gist of what happened is Vulcan and Alpha Draft are both trying to get into Hearthstone, like daily fantasy, and Vulcan did some irresponsible stuff to where they made it like straight up betting. There wasn't really fantasy or elements behind it.
They made this convoluted scoring system in their site that ended up creating this kind of weird betting thing.
Yeah, so and then the Federal Fantasy or Gambling Commission or whatever came after Blizzard rather than going after Vulcan.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
They went after both, but the point is Blizzard was approached by the government or by regulatory agencies. At which point, if you're Blizzard, you're like, well, what the hell is Vulcan? We're not making any money off Vulcan. What do I care about what happens to you? I'm pulling the license on every single fantasy site because I don't want one of you guys to mess up and have to deal with the government as a result of it. Because Blizzard has no investment they have no interest in Vulcan or Alpha Draft success.
Right.
So Blizzard basically pulled the license. So all these daily fantasy sites just like can't do Hearthstone games or Blizzard games in general, I think. And
well, they just won't allow it because of this.
That's really sucked for me personally, because then it's like, it makes it impossible to get like fantasy sponsorship if you're like based in Blizzard games. But like Blizzard's 100% in the right for doing that. It's just, that's kind of what happened. So you're starting to see the government come down kind of hard on all daily fantasy, or a little bit more in 2016, because they're making more money than the government is comfortable with for reasons.
Well, the debate is whether it's a game of skill or not, right? And whether it's considered gambling or
97% of the profits in daily fantasy in traditional sports, I don't know the statistic for esports, but 97% of the prizes are won by 1% of the players. So these are players who have Excel sheets and just document all the numbers and do all that. And
some of them are bots.
If that's not a game of skill, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
But you don't make money from those players. You're making money from, you want it to feel like gambling to the plebs, even if they're going to lose a lot. So it is a game of skill, but it's one that they have to market as a game of chance. And I don't know.
They don't market it as it. When does
FanDuel... It has to feel like a game of chance. Like you have to, if you actually show that statistic, or like 1% of players make 97% of the prize money, like your average middle-aged football fan is not going to play.
Like poker did it, and they said, there's maybe a small portion of the players who win a lot, but you could be one of these guys. And I think they could do the same thing with fantasies.
Oh, I see.
Fantasy is way more profitable than poker because they don't do that.
Okay, I see.
Poker makes no money. It's the lowest revenue casino game of all of them. It's the WSOP only makes money because it's a broadcast. It's like even the WSOP really makes any money. Poker is a very low revenue game.
It, really.
Yeah, it is the rate.
It makes it like bank, and it's because they want the average player to feel like they can win, even though they can't because it's a game of skill. So. That's
I know what you mean though. It's a combination of the two, right? And the thing with daily fantasy too is that compared to poker, because poker did have these kind of weird daily, like who can win the most and jackpot things too. I mean, this is like really not very popular because it was kind of weird. But with daily fantasy, it doesn't take much time too. You know what I mean? Like you choose your lineup. And you choose it based on whatever, and then you kind of see how it does versus everybody's lineup by the end of the day or end of the week or whichever one you're playing, right? So even from a time investment, it's not much, and you can enter multiple times too. So that's like the cool part too, and they can multiply their earnings that way too. So it's really smart. I mean, fantasy sports has been a very successful industry for a long time now, but it hasn't until daily fantasy has become very popular, marketed, that it's become, fivefold. I mean, three folds. I mean, it's like the revenue made from it now is just crazy, like much larger than it used to be, and it was just because of that, right? So it's definitely an interesting time. I mean, like you said, they're starting to crack down on certain companies like FanDuel's and DraftKings in certain states in the U.S. at least. I think it's banned in New York now, and another one recently. I can't remember which one recently, but more states are starting to to disallow these type of business or fantasy esports or people from participating in them, or at least these companies from making money from people in those states. And it'll be interesting to see if it continues on, but the other states are fine. So these companies they're not shutting down. I think people like freaked out when they heard that it was a FanDuel's that's based in New York. I think their offices are in New York, and the fact that they got shut down in New York meant that the company was shut down, but that's not true. They just had to. I don't even think they had to even move, really.
I just find it funny because it's like it opens up a big discussion about gambling. Like, what are they really against? The gambling itself, or just the company being a gambling company that's not owned by the government? Like, it opens up a can of worms that you almost don't want to get into because you'll just be ending up, talking about that specific thing forever.
Yeah.
But for Hearthstone specifically, like as far as it pertains to the game itself, it's mostly Blizzard. Since everything's kind of blacklisted at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's really very little in terms of monitoring from Blizzard's side as far as the matches and the integrity of them. I know, we had a recent problem with HWC points. They looked into it. I'm pretty sure they did whatever they had to, and they're going to do a lot more close monitoring in the future.
Oh, you're talking about the whole fraud thing, right?
Sure. Yeah. But if you could like match fix in a game like Hearthstone, like a misplay is easy to see in Hearthstone, I guess, or to make. Like a small slip up that is objectively worse than another. That the opponent is going to be able to capitalize on. It wouldn't look like match fixing. You can miss lethal. It happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if you could really have something like this when it comes to betting on players without giving players the incentive to cheat the system. I don't know.
But that's true of everything, though. I mean, we've seen some match fixing in CS:GO and StarCraft 2.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I mean, huge, like StarCraft 2, the Korea
Massive
thing was
ones.
huge, right? But
yeah.
It's possible in every game is what I'm saying. So that's not unique to Hearthstone, I don't believe.
Yeah, I guess.
I would argue that Hearthstone's one of the harder games to throw at. I think it's pretty clear like what your play should be for most turns of the game, and then to like,
throw
you can't just not Force of Nature Savage Roar on a given turn. Like
you just don't put them in your deck, dude. You build another Druid deck. That's the whole thing. You just put like a crazed alchemist and a mana addict in your Druid.
I mean, they were gonna have like all these like life coach like ATL crazy situations where it's like if there's any little chance that it could not happen, then you can't even debate it. You know what I mean? It's definitely crazy things like that. Hopefully Blizzard will come around. It's not even just Blizzard. I heard it's Activision. Like it's coming from like even higher than just Blizzard. That Activision has an issue with it. And
so you're saying we're getting Blizzard bet or like MLG bet? Is that it?
Oh my gosh! Can you imagine that? Oh my gosh! MLG comes out with their own
Major League
esports.
Betting, MLB. Oh no, that's already taken.
No, MLB's already taken. Yeah.
I don't think
MLG's not gaming; it's gambling.
Took over.
What was that?
If Blizzard started doing daily fantasy or betting for Blizzard games, that would be better than leaving it to third parties, I think. Because then Blizzard can do it the right way, where it doesn't screw everyone over.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully eventually they'll, whether it's them or, I mean, it'd be nice if they even just allowed the Alpha Drafts to do stuff, just because, like you said, I think Alpha Draft wants to sponsor a ton of things in Hearthstone. And right now they can't, They probably sponsor Tempo Storm and maybe this show and ATL obviously and lots of great things like in our community. So I'm hoping it comes around. I'm hoping, maybe the fact that it was recently in the news we talked about this. Vulcan, the company that's kind of caused all of this stuff, these problems with the fantasy sites. They're actually pivoting. They're like stopping doing it. They laid off like a ton of their staff, and they're not going to be doing this fantasy stuff anymore. So
yeah, but that's like just Vulcan, and that could be a thing specific with their company. It's not happening to Alpha Draft as far as we know.
Oh yeah, no, I think Alpha Draft's happy about it. If anything, probably
throwing a party, just opening out the champagne.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, goodbye, Vulcan. You won't be missed. I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, but so we'll have to see. We'll see if fantasy sites come back here. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about, oh gosh, the juicy topic. Here we go. Yeah. All right, Hearthstone, Reddit, censorship discussion. Censorship. All right.
I'm gonna go hide. You guys take out the nuclear bombs. Call me when the fallout's over.
Okay, I think this is what probably everybody wants to hear about. And so Reynad obviously has had videos, and you've done videos recently. I think it originated on your stream. Just a little bit of your stream one night. You giving your opinion on the new changes to the rules in the Hearthstone subreddit. And this is mostly resulting from the whole Masan thing, just Masan view botting / just everything, just craziness going on with Masan. And you kind of gave your opinions. I guess maybe give a quick summary of your opinions, and then I guess we'll each talk about, I guess, our thoughts on just the changes. Ray, we'll start with you, just because I think most people have probably seen the video, but just a real quick summary.
Yeah, so a quick summary is just, I don't know, man. Am I really qualified to talk, Chris? Because, according to Reddit, I'm just a horrible person in a million
You are.
different ways.
Come on.
Embrace it. Just embrace it.
And because of that, my points are entirely invalid. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are the leading authority on that, so I'm just, maybe I'll just be quiet for this one.
It's
What?
nice of you to
All right, that is
it's nice
not
that
going to
you're doing
happen. That is
self-censorship, at
absolutely
least, I
not
think.
going to happen.
My summary is basically like that evidence of Masan, not just Masan view botting, but of like all of these, I found evidence that so-and-so is a scumbag posts just shouldn't be on Reddit. I just don't think the Hearthstone subreddit's the place for that.
Oh.
I think like if a tournament or something fucks up, then yeah, Reddit's like a fine place to post that.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that like you just shouldn't be having these like targeted posts trying to tear individual people down.
So I mean, you is it an individual versus an event? I mean, is that where you're having an issue with? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if events do fuck up, it's tough for Blizzard to take notice otherwise.